What's up, everybody? Well, I got a interesting video for you guys today. Well, had a power outage probably about a week or so back. I'm more like 2 weeks now, where I was using this computer when the power went out. Then when I turned it back on, it was giving me all sorts of weird blue screens that I've never even heard of before. So I thought, oh fuck, I guess the power outage fucked this thing up. It doesn't have a ULPS, uninterruptible power supply, like all my other computers do in the game room, but that's my own fault. I should have gotten one for it. Maybe then it would have survived, but so I thought. Anyway, continuing on with the story. So I order a new processor because I've got an X570 motherboard lying around, but then I pretty much got this thing fixed. I just did a quick refresh of Windows and then just kept all my stuff. All I had to do was put my icons back to the way they were. I had a fresh screen and had to tell, what do they call that thing? Wallpaper engine. Yeah, I had to tell Wallpaper Engine what to do again. Had to fix a couple things, but better than losing all of your shit. But anyway, I've got this processor, so I think it's time to update this thing. It's a 900K, it's getting up there. Spider-Man was showing me that thing was already bottlenecking even at ultra wide, this 3080, so why not upgrade? So why don't I show you guys what I decided to go with? All right, so here's what I decided to go with. It is a 5800 X3D. So it doesn't come with a cooler or anything, but I've got that 360 millimeter all-in-one in that computer, so that should be plenty. If it can cool a 9900K at 5 gigahertz with a decent amount of volts going through it, it can cool any Ryzen as far as I'm concerned. Well, it might have trouble with my 16 core, but that was the main reason why I'm not putting that thing in here. So now it's time for us to start ripping that thing apart. It's kind of a sad day. I've had that thing built for so long, but it's time. So we'll start with just taking, I'm not going to do it on camera just because that's going to be a little boring watching me disassemble a computer, but I'll turn the camera on from time to time while I'm building the new one. I already took my laptop away from its normal little sitting area to give myself some room to actually build and whatnot. So instead of sitting here just pointed with this camera pointed at my computer, why don't we hop in there and start messing with it and disassembling it, starting by shutting it down. So let's go do just that. All right, guys, we've got the case over on the other table now. I realized it's so tall I can't even use my tripod, so it's a good thing I didn't intend to show you guys the disassembly process. It wouldn't have reached, and there's no way I can do it with one hand, even with this gimbal, and it won't shake too much. I mean, I'm shaking my hand right now, but it still only gives me one hand to do everything. I could probably take this off, take the RAM out, disconnect some stuff, but some things, you know, with a computer you want to have two hands with. So we're all good. I'm gonna probably just take the GPU out first, grab the RAM out, of course get the Elgato out of there, then I'll probably get my M.2 out of there, then we will take the all-in-one off, and then after that we can get the motherboard out. Yeah, we can pretty much just disconnect the last two things off of it, get the motherboard out, and we're good to roll after that. I mean, this seems all like a big giant thing, but really it won't take too long, I don't think, and it shouldn't be that complicated. The most complicated thing I have to do is something I haven't done before. On my X570 Taichi, I have to update the BIOS through USB with nothing installed, and I've never done that before, so that'll be interesting. But anyway, why don't I just get all of this out of here, and then we can get to actually building. Oh yeah, and if anybody's wondering what I did with the laptop for now, I've just got it and its cooling pad just chilling on the bed, and I've got a power supply over there to give the motherboard power and everything, so I'm all good to go. Well, all right, guys, I got the other motherboard all out of the other computer and everything already. Everything's good. Now it's time for me to do the part I've never done before. So I went, got a USB drive, named it creative.rom, just like AsRock told me to. We've got 4.80, which is the latest one, which is the one I need for that Ryzen 3D. So then they said all I gotta do is flip on the power. All right, and then hold the BIOS flashback button until it starts flashing. All right, now we just kind of have to wait for it to stop flashing. So I'm gonna let it do its thing. I'm just gonna let it sit there for like 5 minutes or something like that. I do not wanna mess with it because the last thing I wanna do is fuck over the, BIOS update. Yep, it's still flashing. I think they said it'll stop flashing when it's done updating the BIOS or whatever. So we will return, hopefully, with a motherboard with a new BIOS on it in a few seconds here. Well, all right, guys. It has stopped flashing and pretty much powered off. Even the USB drive has stopped lighting up. So everything is good and should work. So now I should be able to plop this thing into the case and everything should be all good. Now, if I was smart, I would put everything together outside of the case first just to make sure it actually powers up before I put everything together, but I live life dangerously, and it's more interesting that way. It's besides, that case is so easy to work in. It's got an open back. I can take the cooler off if I have to, and all these other things. So I really don't think any of that's going to be a problem, to be honest. The light stopped flashing, so it should have worked. It didn't turn solid green. That's what it said problems would be. So if everything's good, it should be good. So now we can just take our drive out, and then we can disconnect our, well, turn the power off first. Then we can disconnect our power, maybe. There we go. Let that go. And now we can get this guy in the case. All right. We've got our little standoffs for our all-in-one EK thing. I switched over from the Intel brackets on the actual unit itself. I told myself last night I was probably going to forget that when I was going through all the, do I have everything I need kind of thinkings. But I mainly turned this on to show you this. This is the new drive I'm going to be going with, since the 512 gigs is pretty small, honestly. And it's not like the 960 Pro was even close to being dead. I think it had 99.9% of its life left. But check this out. It comes in an actual little metal tin. And there it is. Isn't that neat? I wasn't going to show you that, but I've never seen an SSD come in like a cool little metal, like almost Altoids-like case before. So just keep that, I guess, safe in there until I'm ready to put it in. But unfortunately with this damn thing, you've got to take this whole freaking thing apart just to put a freaking SS or M.2 under there. So that's a little annoying compared to just unscrewing one screw, taking off a freaking metal thing real quick and taking out another screw and then putting your drive in and whatnot, like my old, what was it, Gigabyte 390 Master, Z390 Master motherboard had. But whatever, you only do it once and then you forget about it, but kind of makes it annoying if you want to like put your a new drive in or add more to these two slots, because if you've got a GPU in here, you gotta literally take everything out just to put a drive in. Whereas with the other thing, I didn't at all. I could change drives out whenever, but again, it's not like I was changing drives very often, so who really cares? Anyway, time for me to get this freaking casing off and get this Sabrent rocket installed. So let's go do just that. All right, just about ready to install the freaking thing. And I noticed there's some weird, like, you gotta be careful with this thing because it's the RGB, but there's like goop all over this thing. And then there's also goop all over there. So I'm gonna wipe that up. But before I do that, let's get that out of the way. And why don't we install our drive real quick? Figured I never showed you guys how to install one of these before. So figured, why not? We can do like a miniature tutorial. I'm not gonna sit here and show you step one to finish, but we'll definitely get a little bit along the way here. Here we go, try to get my hands out of the way. That's the one thing it's hard for me to do while I do this. I'm so used to building computers, but I'm not used to like keeping my hands out of the way and all this other stuff while I'm trying to like do stuff. And then remembering, okay, well, I want to record this, that. When I can just build a computer, I can do that shit in like 20 minutes. But it sure does take a while when you're trying to actually get footage of it. Anyway, I'm gonna go get a little paper towel or like a napkin or something and try and wipe up some of this weird shit. It's probably just like oil, like petroleum residue from these little heat pad things. So I'm gonna go do that real quick. All right, let's get the cover put back on now. You need one of those weird looking freaking screwdriver heads to do that. The Torx. Yeah, T9 for both of these guys. But then you need to change back to a Phillips to get the actual miniature screw to get your drive installed. Whoops. There we go. Maybe. If I can use a screwdriver properly, geez. Here we go. Just snug, you don't have to over wrench anything. Now we can, I don't think we need Torx anymore, so now let's take that off and put our normal screwdriver back on, and now let's move on to the next step. All right, guys, before we install the processor, let's just take a quick look at it up close. And again, it's a AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 3D. So this is the one with all those 3D cache. You gotta be very careful with these guys. These guys still have the pins. So if I were to drop it or something like that, or try to force it into the freaking slot, that would not be good. But it's super easy to install. Every single CPU, whether it's Ryzen or Intel, always has a small little arrow. And then you just have to correspond it to that. See, there's an arrow on the motherboard. So then just drop it down. It falls right into place. There's no need to freaking push it down or do anything. Just give it a very gentle wiggle to make sure it's seated in place. Drop down your little bar and look at that. You installed a Ryzen processor. Easy as pie. That's how it works. But Anyway, now it's time for us to get this motherboard back into the case and get everything hooked back up. And I'm gonna have to just leave the case on the damn floor for that. There's no way I'm gonna, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's no way I can have it be at the top of the case or up at the top of the table like it is here. It's just not gonna work. My stupid tripod doesn't get tall enough. So we're just gonna have to do this on the floor, which I would highly not recommend, seeing as though there can be lots of, static electricity down there, but it is what it is. I'm trying to make a video for you guys, so this is one of those times where it's do what I say, not as I do kind of situations. I know parents loved to used to use those on me as a kid, and now I'm using it on you. Anyway, let's move on and do just that. Well, all right, guys, now it's time for us to screw this bad mamma jamma back in. So what I like to do is line it up with the holes. There we go. Just snug. If you do it too tight, it'll pretty much it'll try to bring your freaking other screw out as well. You know how you got to put those little standoffs? It'll take your standoff back out with you if you're not careful. And you do it too tight, but you don't want to make it so loose that your motherboard's going to fall off. So just use your best judgment on that one, would be my advice. And I'm not gonna lie, magnetic screwdrivers really freaking help with this kind of stuff, because it's a little hard to get your fingers into every little area sometimes. Oh, what's going on here? Uh-oh. Are we not? Uh-huh. All right, hold on, guys. I just noticed something else that you guys have to be very careful of. Every motherboard has its own standoffs, and not every single motherboard is the same. So I'm actually going to show you this, because if you're not careful and your standoff starts touching the back of your motherboard, well, then you can run into some trouble, because then you're going to short circuit shit, and that's not going to be a good time at all. So it looks like, besides that one though, just go and look through all of your different holes and make sure you can see all the different standoff locations, because I need to change at least one. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to put one there because I don't have an extra one, but this one down here seems to be off by a little bit. So let's get this back out carefully. Easier said than done. We'll just balance that on my leg so it's not having too much pressure. This is always a stressful part, because you don't want to ruin anything or tear anything apart, but at the same time, there we go. So let's see, what was the problem? Yep. So this one just needs to come out. So I'm gonna go turn the camera off, get my cool little tool for getting those out, and we'll fix this little kerfuffle here. All right, we're back. Fixed that little problem, and I pretty much just put the screws that I already had in, and now we're right back where we were. Just screwing in the rest of the motherboard. Maybe. All right, hold up. Huh, interesting. Even though it's, yeah, that just doesn't line up. Okay, well, whatever. That one just doesn't want to line up right now. Trick with those is most of the time when you get done with everything else, then hopefully the motherboard will basically get like jerked into freaking place. All right, you are actually tightening, right? Yes. Okay, just making sure. Sometimes, back in my youth, I would be sitting there thinking, oh man, this sure is taking a while to tighten. And then it's like not even doing anything. It's just spinning the freaking standoff around. Or it's just spinning around in the standoff because the screw isn't even the right size, you know? All right, now that's the one we don't have, so I just didn't have an extra one. When I looked for my little tool, I looked for another extra standoff, and unfortunately I just don't have it. All right, so now we need one right here. And then the last but not least, will the one that wouldn't go in before go in now that we've tightened every other screw? Can we get it at an angle? Yeah, there we go. Never give up, never surrender. And there we go, that's all taut. And that is every screw besides that one, because we didn't have a standoff for it. So now, I'd say it's probably a good time before we get anything else like RAM or anything in the way. Why don't we get this all-in-one back on there? Sound good? Sounds good to me. Well, all right. So we're going to be using some thermal Grizzly here. And what I like to do with Ryzen's is, because they're a little bigger than Intel's, the little P-dot method doesn't generally work the best. So what I like to do is just give it a little X in the middle. Just like that. And the general rule with thermal paste is, if you put too much on, it's going to spill out the sides, but most are non-conductive, so that's not the biggest deal unless you're using Arctic silver or liquid metal. Then you got to worry about spill-off. But the biggest problem is not having enough thermal paste. If you don't have enough, it doesn't fill in all those little cracks and all those little microscopic little imperfections, and then you get bad thermal conductivity. So, now, we should be able to just plop this on just like this, keep the wires out of the way, and there we go. Look how easy that is. Although, I stupidly should have grabbed all the little standoffs and stuff I needed before I started the damn video, but ugh. Nope, fuck you, you're not getting away. One of the little springs tried to get away on me. Haha, I don't think so. You guys are important. You're not getting away. No way. So you just have to put those guys on all the little things. And ideally, you don't want it to just like come up like I just let it do right there. But I'm not going to sit here and be Mr. Perfectionist here. And then you just want to get them started. Don't actually tighten it down yet. You want to go in a star pattern here. So right now I'm literally just getting them started on their threads. Whoop. That wouldn't have worked very well. Alright, get that little guy started. And then what you're going to want to do is count in your head how many turns. And just sit here and go around in a cross pattern until it's snug. And then that way it'll have very even distribution. Okay, that one's snug. That one's snug. And again, you don't have to wrench this, just until it's snug. The little springs will do their job and do the right tension. So there we go. They're all on there. It's on there. We're all good. Now we can hide our little pump wires here around it. Try to do some cable management here. Kind of like I did the first time. And then bam, there we go. That doesn't look so bad. It's hidden by most stuff. You can't see it too bad. Here we go. Awesome. Now, as long as everything actually works, this will end up being pretty sweet. So now what we got to do is we got to go hook up all of our other accessories, like our USB 3.0. Be very careful with this that you don't bend any of the little wires. They're very fragile. My other motherboard actually came with this damage, so I couldn't even hook that shit in. Then we've got our USB-C right there. Whoop. Maybe it doesn't go in that way. Let's spin it around. Like I said, never force anything. Yep, see? Didn't go in the one way. Don't force it. Spin it around. All right, what do we got here? USB. So find your USB ports. They're usually on the bottom. There's one right there, I believe. There we go. So we got one. Is this another USB? Nope, that is a fan. So we'll just plug him into the little fan cable right there. Sorry, this is kind of unprofessional. I'm probably shoving my freaking face right into the camera constantly, but like I said, while I'm trying to work, sometimes I forget about that stuff. All right, now we'll get our front side audio. Even though I don't use it, I still hook it up. Don't know why. Although I might not. It doesn't really want to like go on. So let's spin it around. Maybe this one is backwards or something. Yep, that's exactly the problem. That's why you don't force. I keep saying that, but it's true. Do not force things and you won't really have a problem. All right, now that's one of those ones where it doesn't. It only pops up one side of the RAM. I kind of don't like that, to be honest with you. All right, let's get our motherboard power in now. Here we go. And then we can get our CPU power in. Maybe. All right, I think it goes like that. Okay, so there's the one. And we don't even need those anymore because this one only takes a 4-pin and an 8-pin. The other one took 2 8-pins, so that works. I think that's just for extreme overclocking anyway, but if I see a plug, I like to plug it in. So that's just me. You guys can do what you want to do. Then we can get our SATA ports all plugged in here. So there's one. All right, where can you go? You're kind of... Oh, nope, I guess you go the other way. All right, all right. Don't want to force nothing. There we go. And then we can just plug the last guy right there. Simple as that. Now my arch nemesis, which I'm going to have to look up, the front freaking panel connectors. I absolutely loathe doing those with a passion. So I'm just going to turn the camera off real quick, do those off camera, and then we'll get back to installing shit back into the computer. Well, all right, guys, let us start installing some stuff back in. So why don't we start with the Elgato? We're going to keep him at the bottom. Seems like a good spot for him. Out of the way. It's not like it gets that hot. It's still like right in front of a front fan, so it should get plenty of cooling. It shouldn't need too much anyway. So we've got that guy in. And now before I get that big behemoth of a GPU in there, why don't we go ahead and install our RAM real quick. Now this is some old Patriot 4400 megahertz memory. Now we're not going to run it like that because I know Ryzen does not like that. So alright, we just have to, nope, that's not the right way. You just have to line up the little groove with the little groove on the RAM motherboard. Give it a little push, it'll hear a clip. And once you hear the click, you know it's in. And then just do the same for the rest of your RAM. Now, I unfortunately kind of messed up and bought 4 sticks at the time, not understanding that it's harder to overclock. So that was the reason, even with my Intel, I was never able to get this up to the full speed that it was designed to, which is kind of a bummer, but it wasn't the end of the world. It still was great. I got it, I think, up to 4100 or 4000 on the dot. It was one of the two. Alrighty. There we go. There we go. All of the RAM is now installed. So now we can get this big old motherfucker in there. Big old EVGA RTX 3080 for the win. Now this is one of the first gen ones with the clown lips. But let's just get him back in there now. There we go. You almost can't get it past the frickin' USB-C. I'm glad it's not an extra tall card. Now we need our screws. Let's screw her on into place here. Now with these GPUs, I always like to do the middle one first, just to hold it into place. Then I'll do the top. But I guess it really doesn't matter. There we go. Now that is all back together. Now we can plug our GPU back in the way it was. Come on, you little bastard. Here we go. Tidy that back up a little bit here. There we go. All right, pretty good. Not the prettiest looking cabling, but I've also seen much worse. So now let's just go over a quick checklist. We have plugged in our CPU power. We have plugged in our pump and our fans. We've plugged in all of our RAM. We have tightened down our all-in-one. We updated the BIOS first and foremost. We've hooked up the motherboard power. We've hooked up USB 3.0, USB-C, USB 2.0. We got our Elgato capture card back in there. We got our RTX 3080 back in there. We've got all of our SATA hooked up. We hooked up our only fan that I disconnected. All the other fans should be good. So, yeah, we should be ready to just get going here. So, why don't we go put her back into her homestead up there? I'm going to dust real quick off camera and whatnot and dust this thing all out too. This thing's full of dust over the PSU and whatnot. Shroud, or not shroud, but the little mesh filter they give you. So, I'm going to deal with that and then we'll be right back to do a first boot. Well, all right, guys. It's all back to where it normally is. There we go. Now it looks more like it normally did. Off on its side, so let's flip on power. All right, lights are coming on. I can see the Taichi lights come on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take ourselves a little hope this works hit. And just an FYI, it's not a good idea to blow weed smoke into your computers, especially if they're on. I'm just doing that because I can. But normally I try to aim that shit away from them. And I think that's why all this frickin' dust gets so sticky. It's all that frickin' smoke. Anyway. Give myself a chance to cough. Usually I don't cough, but that was a pretty big hit. Because I didn't know if this was going to work, so finger is on the trigger. First post. All right, fans are all working. Yep, all fans are working. Turn on our monitor so I can see. Now it's going to have to like train the memory and stuff, so it's going to take a while to actually post. But hopefully it does post, so. Hey, look at that. It has definitely posted. And we are in the BIOS. We're on P480, so hell yeah, everything is good to roll. So I'm going to do the boring shit of configuring the BIOS real quick. Then we'll get some Windows reinstalled on this bitch. Well, alright guys, now we're at the Windows installation screen. So we're just going to hit install now. It's going to say setup is starting. I don't have a product key. I'll get one later for super cheap. We're going to say we're on Windows 11 Pro. That's what I'm going to get. And who knows, it might be like linked to my account. I don't know. But we're just going to go ahead and accept. We're definitely going to do that. All right, now we've got to find the right drive. I'm imagining that's it. I hope. Because that one is the 2 terabyte one. And then there's that one, and it hasn't been used at all, so I want to say that's probably it. So let's go with that one. Hopefully it's not going to say Windows can't install to that drive. Sometimes that happens. Can't remember why, but I think it's like if you don't have like the right UEFI setting and your thing saying boot from UEFI or something, it can really just fuck with shit hardcore. So make sure you select the right drop down when you're saying boot from. Sometimes nowadays it's not really a big deal, but I've had some older motherboards where you have to make sure you select boot from USB UEFI, not just boot from USB. I think that's where I was getting into trouble. But anyway, now it's basically just going to get files ready for installation and install shit. This should really not take very long on a computer like this. I mean, we're already at almost 100% of getting our files ready for installation here. But anyway, I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch this whole entire thing. It's pretty much just going to go through this. It's going to restart, and when it gets to the bottom, just take the freaking USB drive out as soon as it restarts, because it's already done. See, we're already basically done already. It's installing the future features, it's installing the updates, and then it's going to finish up. So never mind, I lie, we did go through the whole thing. Now just take your USB drive out, and then you can let it restart, or you can hit restart now, and then it'll continue from there. You do not need the drive installed anymore. Whoop. Yeah, let's toss our drive around and break it. That's what we should do. Whatever, those things are tougher than that. They can take a little tumble like that, no problem. So now what should happen is it should start loading from the new drive and continue with the installation. That's what should happen. We'll see. Yep, starting services, getting ready. So, yep, so we're pretty much just gonna get done with this. So I'll let it do its thing, and we'll get back to it when we get into the actual Windows. Well, all right, guys, we are all good. Got it all put back together. I've got most of my stuff back on there. I gotta redownload a bunch of games still, and I gotta sit there and do the boring stuff like tinker with the RAM, because it's sitting there at 2133 megahertz, and that is not good for Ryzen. I gotta try to get that up to 3800. Hopefully command rate T1. Right now it seems to be in T2, which is also probably not great for Ryzen. But eventually I'm going to take this RAM out and replace it with the other RAM once I upgrade my main computer anyway. And I'm going to sell the 5950X and all that stuff because I just won't need it in here. This thing for pure gaming is better than the 5950X. So, just sell it for some money and let somebody else have it. But anyway, why don't we take a closer look at the actual computer itself? Seeing as though I think it turned out pretty good. Alright guys, that is it. We've made it to the end. So far, it hasn't crashed, blue screen, done anything. Obviously, I haven't done anything super intensive. Still gotta go fiddle with the RAM and install some games and whatnot. But I've got all of my stuff like the capture card, OBS, Audacity, all that stuff, Afterburner, EVGA Precision, all of my Epic and Ubisoft, Steam, all that stuff, Chrome. Pretty much made my desktop look exactly like it did before, minus all the games. So, pretty sweet. So what I'm going to do real quick is take me a big old victory hit. Hell yeah. Did a good job and even video recorded some of the process along the way. Didn't do everything, but didn't want to make the video too long or too boring. But I think I did a pretty good job. Not the best, but not the worst. Anyway though, that's all I got for you for this video. Time for me to get tinkering, and I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next video, peace out, guys.